Hey guys, it's Raychich and I finally finished working on the endgame version of my build, Fireball Frost Wall Archmage Stormweaver. This build is crazy. I've put in a lot of work, made many adjustments, and now this build is an absolute killing machine. Simply put, super fast map clearing, massive boss heap damage, decent survivability, so you're definitely gonna love it. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment. Before I start, let me briefly explain how the build works. In case you haven't seen the previous video, we spawn frost walls and then shoot fireballs into them. The walls shatter, dealing massive AoE damage, freezing enemies and causing fireballs to explode into tons of projectiles, wiping out everything around. And also freeze. While mapping, we also use a custom freeze setup combined with comets, and when enemies freeze and the freeze gauge on the skill fills up, two massive comets crash down, dealing enormous damage. For bigger bosses, we swap custom freeze for custom shock and adjust 3 gems in our setup, since repeatedly freezing bosses is much harder than shocking them, so custom shock for bosses, for big bosses, and custom freeze for mapping. This build deals damage with 2 elements, cold and lightning. Don't worry about the fire attack on fireballs, we convert all fire damage to cold using the blue flame bracer's glows. This means our frost walls, fireballs and comets deal cold damage, but they also deal significant lightning damage, because we're using Archmage in this build. The additional lightning damage scales with our maximum mana, so the more mana we have, the higher the damage. This results in enemies being both frozen and shocked when we blow up frost walls with fireballs, thanks to the massive lightning damage. On top of that, comets rain down, dealing devastating damage, and overall the clear speed and boss damage are incredibly strong here, dare I say, imbalanced. Actually, Stormweaver is the best Ascendancy for Archmage because we have this big passive node, Ascendancy passive node, and we have Arc and Surge increased effect because of maximum mana. As for defense, this build has 3 key layers. First, we have a decent pool of maximum health. At level 87 I have around 2000 life right now and 1500 energy shield. Second, and thanks to the Mind Over Matter passive, all our damage is taken from mana before life, so our 3000 mana pool acts as an additional 3000 health. And third, while this build lacks armor of evasion, freezing enemies adds an extra layer of defense, and freeze is an amazing defense mechanic actually. Now that you have a general idea of how this build works, let's dive into details, and I will just tell you why this build is overpowered, how to scale your damage, and what you should looking for. So hey guys, it's me again, but in my hideout, and I will tell you in more details how this build works. What you should looking for, and about passive trees, skill gems, items, and more. So let me start with passive tree. And I think the Ascendancy is #1 priority you should think of playing this build. The first one is we need to take, when you level this character up, you need to take Constant Gale to have Arc and Surge, because it gives more cast speed and it gives more regeneration rate, because in this build, as mana is one of our defense layers, we should care about mana, and we spend our mana while we casting something, so we should care about mana regeneration rate. And I have 340 mana regen while moving, so it should be like something like this. The next one is you should take First Will. It gives increased effect of Arc and Surge on you per 15 maximum mana, and that's a lot because we have like 3000 mana, and when you will progress this build you will have even more. So now I have like 200 increased effect of Arc and Surge, and that's really huge. We have more mana regen, we have more cast speed. The next one is we need to take Strike Twice, and this passive gives targets can be affected by 2 of our shocks at the same time, but less shock duration. So it means when we shock enemies, it can be shocked like 2 times, and it will increase our damage. So yeah, pretty simple. And the last Ascendancy here is Scouring Winds. This gives exposure. We inflict, lowers the affected resistances by an additional 20%. And actually on the passive tree, I will actually say about passive tree right now, we'll talk about this. We have 2 exposure nodes, so we really care about exposure because on the bosses it really helps. It increases our damage a lot. And I have 2 exposure. We have cold exposure, Frost Bomb. We have cold exposure with strip away support to make this exposure even stronger. And actually on the bosses we use this to inflict cold exposure. And the next exposure is I have in my Frost Wall. So yeah, we have here lightning exposure. So supported skills inflict lightning exposure for 8 seconds on shotgun and enemies. So when you running on a map and you cast Frost Walls, then you destroy it with your fireballs, it has a chance to inflict lightning exposure, right? So with exposure, now you know how it works. The next one, my passive tree. So we start here, we take energy shield, we take mana plus mana. The next one, what we have here, what we actually need on the passive tree. We need a little bit of freeze build up, but not all the freeze build up on the tree, because we need these 4 passives, because it gives additional 20% of cold damage as extra fire damage against frozen enemies. And yeah, it's like bonus damage, why not? The next one is we have freeze build up here. We have heavy frost, and also hits ignore non-negative elemental resistances of frozen enemies and increase damage with hits against frozen enemies. So these 2 sides when we need to take freeze build up. And if you don't know what the freeze build up is, actually it's the number of freeze you need to inflict on an enemy to make this enemy frozen actually. So yeah, and it will affect custom freeze, so it will like this stat will progress faster, and comets will land actually more often. The next one, what we need to take on the passive tree is mana nodes. Mana nodes. So actually you will see all my passive tree, this whole tree by link in the description, my Blades guide. I will have this. So we take mana here because mana is our defense, mana is our damage because of Archmage. And actually I will talk about big nodes here. We have Eldritch Battery, so this converts all energy shield to mana, but you can like ask me why we still have 1500 energy shield. That's because of this Azuri, this Dane Gold Circlet. Actually, this helmet gives our gain 29% of maximum life as extra maximum energy shield. So if we will like unequip it, we'll have 0 shield, but when we have equip it, like 1500 bonus defense, bonus shield. So it's pretty a lot. The next one, as we have mana, as I said before here, what I wanted to talk here. I have Whispers of Doom to apply, we can apply an additional curse, but we have double activation delay of curses. You can ask me like, why we need this double activation? Because curses are like, works like a bonus damage. Enemies will, bosses, because we use it only against bosses, will receive more damage. So I have conductivity. With conductivity with increased effect of supported curses and more cast speed. Conductivity works like cursed enemies have minus lightning resistance, and another curse we have is hypothermia, and cursed enemies have minus cold resistance. And I use it with life tap, because when we use these 2 curses without life tap, I will just show you, like it takes a lot of mana. So I just decided to use life tap to make hypothermia, like use my life as a mana. So we have like this and mana and life. And with focus curse, so skill erupt after 30% reduced delay. Actually, it's not all I wanted to say about curses, because in this build we have weapon swap. This is our main passive tree, and we have weapon swap. So when we have weapon swap, and we have conductivity and hypothermia with second weapon set. You can ask me why. Because of this. When we cast, like, here's me playing in the map, all my skills, Frost Wall, Frost Bomb, Fireball, uses the first passive tree, weapon passive tree. But when we cast conductivity and frostbite, so you need to set this thing up, we automatically swap our weapon. So look at me casting conductivity or frostbite, boom, and we swapped our weapon. And you know what happened? We have these passives on the passive tree, and I took all the passives near my line for the curses. So we have like 80% curse effect modifier here, and also, I mean, it doesn't show, but also we have 80% increased effect here. So, but you shouldn't care about swapping your weapon because of this option. This will swap automatically. So, bam, we have our stuff equipped, but when we cast any other skill like Frost Wall, we swap our weapon again. So we have our wand. What's next on the weapon swap? You should have one stuff, and you should have, actually it's necessary, you should have stuff with grand skill level sigil of power implicit, because this skill gives a lot of damage. I will show you how this works. This gives you damage and gain a stage when you spend a total of 50% of your maximum mana while in area, and maximum is 4 stages, and Bath grants 14% more spell damage per stage. And actually also you need to, I mean, if it will automatically swap the weapon because it works only with the stuff. So when I cast my Sigil of Power, it's swapped. And actually about this stuff, exactly, you shouldn't care about gain percentage of damage as extra cold, lightning, as I have. You should care only about +4 to level of all spell skills, or it can be +5 or +6, depends on your budget. And actually it can be with cast speed if you have like extra budget to spend. Now you know about curses and weapon swap, and now let me tell you how you should bosses. I mean, how you should fight with bosses exactly. When you come, like, imagine this map device is boss. So before the boss appears, what we do? First we cast Sigil of Power, and then we cast Frost Bomb and 2 curses, and then we deal our damage, I mean Frost Walls, and just shoot. By this time I have 3, I have 3rd stage, so I have more damage, like 40% more damage. So pretty simple, right? And boss will be affected by cold exposure because of Frost Bomb, by lightning exposure because of Frost Wall, and by 2 curses, so that's really a lot. And don't forget about shock. So now we know about curses. Whew, I speak too fast, sorry guys. Pretty nervous because like I really wanted to show you this build. The next one, what I want to talk about is, okay, we discussed about curses here, as we have this 1, 2, 3, 4 shock nodes, because we need to have increased chance to shock. Actually, our chance to shock is affected by our lightning damage, so more lightning damage you deal, more chance to shock you have. And we need to take this one big because it like gives us 40% increased chance to shock, so that's a lot. And also gain 5% of lightning damage as extra cold. So it's pretty simple to shock the enemy, and it's even more simpler to shock the boss. It's the only 4 passives we take for shock, because if you have like me, 3000 mana, you will shock bosses pretty often, and you shouldn't care about more chance. The next, what we have on the right side, we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 passives. We need this for chance for spell skills to fire 2 additional projectiles, because we care about number of fireballs we actually shoot. And we have 4, 8, we have 14, we have 20, 32 chance for spell skills to fire 2 additional projectiles. And actually with fireballs, now we'll talk about skill gems. We use Scattered Shot for 2 additional projectiles. We use Wild Shots, so we have 20% chance to fire 8 additional projectiles in a circle. We use Unleash to have like 2 charges, so we'll cast like 3 fireballs at once, but it means like a lot of these fireballs. So you shouldn't spam this fireball, use it only when you have 2 charges right here. So when we cast it, we cast like a lot of these projectiles, I mean fireballs, and if we will hit this 20%, it will be even more. Actually, the next one is Rising Tempest. We need this Rising Tempest support because supported skill deal 12% more elemental damage for each skill used recently of a different elemental type. And as I said before, Fireball has fire tag, Frost Wall has cold tag, so actually we deal at least with 2 elements. So it's like pretty a lot for our damage. The next one, we're not done with passive tree. What we have? Exposure, Freeze, shock, mana, additional projectiles. Let's go left side. Left side, we have for elemental, we have more elemental damage, elemental resistances, and elemental damage and crit chance. Here we have energy shield, mana, and again crit. So the next what I want to talk about in this build is crits. And crits is really overpowerful in PoE too, because it's really easy to gain like 50% chance to deal critical damage, and we have a lot of critical bonus damage. I mean, we have crits here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points, 8 bases. So we deal more damage with crits, and more damage you deal, I mean more lightning damage we deal because we have Archmage, more chance to shock, and don't forget about this passive, so we can apply 2 shocks, so we need more damage, that's why we use crits. So basically, while we're not fighting, my crit chance actually for Frost Wall is about 44%, but while fighting we have like 55 or something. And about crits, I will tell you about my equipment and I will show you my anoint. So it's pretty hard to say. I mean, I haven't finished my first part, and now I'm talking about items, but sorry guys, pretty nervous, but I want to talk about all the aspects, and actually you can ask me about everything about this build in the comments. So we have crit chance actually in this build about 55 or like 60%, right? But actually this is my amulet. What you should care about, what you should looking for on your amulet is maximum life, spirit, because we should have like 160 spirit minimum, and I have 170 spirit. So you should care about spirit, maximum life here, mana regen, and I have crit damage bonus, but I mean, if you have your budget, like this amulet costs like 1 divine, so yeah, you can buy something like this. And I allocate this amulet with dispatch foes, and it gives 80% increased crit hit chance if you haven't dealt a critical hit recently. So I mean, this anoint is pretty cheap. I spent like maybe 2 or 3 exalted orbs for this, and it gives us a lot more crit chance. So the passive tree, crit, and the last thing I wanted to discuss about is here. So we have 30% increased elemental damage if you have chilled an enemy recently, and we chill with our frost walls and fireballs. I mean, is our main type of damage. And we have increased elemental damage if you have shocked an enemy recently, and we shock enemy because of Archmage mechanic. Now you know everything about passive tree. If you would ask me how would I progress this build, I would take something for defense. Maybe I would take this for passives for percent of maximum energy shield as additional stun threshold, and actually I would take something for damage, maybe these nodes for increased lightning damage per 10 intelligence, because we have a lot of this intelligence. So I know everything about passive tree, about weapon swap. Now let me discuss about items actually and skill gems. The first one is you should care about your wands, and my wands have, the first one you should look for is +4 to level of all spell skills, because we have like fire tag for fireball, and we have like cold, so that's why we need to level of all spell skills. The next one is increased critical hit chance for spells, because crits is really a big part of our damage. The next one is maximum mana, because we play Archmage, and the last one is gain % of damage as extra lightning or cold. You know about wands. The next one is helmet. I talked about it earlier. We need it for maximum life as extra maximum energy shield. So yeah. The next one is left ring. It should be equipped in the left slot, and this ring gives cast speed, spell damage, more cast speed, and left ring slot projectiles from spells cannot chain, and left ring slot projectiles from spells fork. So what the fork is? What the fork is, let me show you. Projectiles that fork split into 2 the first time they hit an enemy and do not pierce it. So when we actually shoot enemy with our fireball will split into 2 fireballs and will deal even more damage, more projectiles, so more freeze, and you know more damage. The next one is body armor, you should care about energy shield here. Oh, someone's calling me. Fuck. You should care about your energy shield here, and it should be with spirit more as much as you can energy shield. And yeah, I have 3 slots here because I've corrupted it, but 2 slots are fine. The next one is the second ring. It should be with maximum life, maximum mana, and as much elemental resistances as possible. The next one is Amulet. I've talked about it earlier. We need here to allocate Dispatch Foes first. Then we need mana regeneration rate, maximum life, spirit, and crit damage or crit chance, so wherever. The next one is Shield. I advise you to buy some kind of shield with a lot of maximum life, a lot of resistances, and that's all you should actually look for on your shield. The next one is blue flame bracers, as I mean we need these gloves for fire damage converted to cold, and so yeah, you should buy exactly this one. The next one is belt. I have pretty good belt with a lot of life, mana, strength. Actually, I need the strength to equip this shield, but if you have enough strength to equip this shield, you shouldn't care about strength here, and resistances, right? And the last item here is boots. It should be with like movement speed. 30% is minimum because like PoE 2 is much slower than the first part. And life and a lot of resistances. Charm. I have charm which cannot be stunned because we actually don't want to be stunned because we want to freeze enemies, and freeze is our key defense layer. So yeah, fuck. It's really hard to speak for me. Now about skill gems. Let me start with Sickle of Power. So our implicit skill for our second weapon swap. I use it with magnified effect for more area of effect. So actually we cast it and it lasts like 10 seconds, and it works only when we like playing in this circle. So yeah, the area should be big. The next one is Persistence for more skill effect duration, because like when we fight boss, we want this Sickle of Power like lasts longer. Okay, Frost Wall we use with Spell Cascade. I mean to cast it more, these walls, because this walls actually deals massive amount of damage when it explodes, and actually you should care about your damage, I mean your regular fireball damage, to ensure that you can explode these fireballs, because like you should explode it with 1 shot or maybe like 2 shots. Like some little walls can not be exploded, but actually you know what I mean. The next one is Glaciation Support. It gives supported skill cost 50% more freeze build up, so enemies will become frozen faster. So pretty important. The next one is Lightning Exposure. As I said before, we need to inflict lightning exposure to like deal more damage. And the last one is Consider Casting. So it gives supported spell skills have less cast speed. We don't care about cast speed, and deal more damage with spell hits. So actually, about this Frost Wall, it works perfectly against bosses because it deals damage not only when we explode them, actually it deals damage also when the big boss, I mean just standing, and we cast Frost Wall near this boss, it will take, I mean the boss will take periodically damage just because we cast it. So yeah, the next one is Fireball. We cast it with, I said about Fireball, Scatter Shot for more additional projectiles, Valor Shots for more projectiles, Unleash to like have 3 charges, and Rising Tempest for more damage per elemental type. The next one is Cast on Freeze, and as I said before, we use Cast on Freeze while mapping to cast Comet, because like it's really easy to have this charged 100% while mapping because of normal and magic monsters, but it's hard to get this 100%, I mean at least few times against bosses. So we have Cast and Freeze while mapping with Comet, Spell Echo, Concentrated Effect, and Inspiration. So we have for like Spell Echo, it will cast 2 Comets at once. Concentrated Effect gives more damage but less area, and Inspiration like skills have less cost because we should care about mana, is our defense, is our source of damage. So but when you fighting a boss, we just do this thing, like it takes 1 second. We just take these 4 skills and put it here and activate cast on shock, because it will cast more frequently, it will cast it will even trigger more often against bosses, so pretty easy to understand. The next one is Archmage, our main source of damage, because it gives non-channeling spells gain 8% of damage as actual lightning, and I have level 19 right now. Damage for each 100 maximum life, maximum mana you have. So you should care about your mana, as I said before, and we use it with Lightning Mastery for +1 to level of supported lightning skills, and Clarity if you have like 10 bonus, I mean extra spirit as I do, for increased mana regeneration rate while supported skill is active. So it's like, yeah, for mana. The next one is Frost Bomb. We use it for it deals a lot of damage actually. We use it for cold exposure. So, and it inflicts cold exposure not when it explodes, but just when it like ticking. So it's pretty easy to inflict this cold exposure. We use it with exposure applied by supported skills have increased effect and +1 to level of supported cold skills. Maybe you can use something else, but I don't. Conductivity, our first curse, we use with increased effect of supported curses and more cast speed. And hypothermia with mana cost converted to life to like save some mana, and focus curse for skills erupt after 30% reduced delay. So now, guys, you know everything about this build. Like right now I'm pretty bad with my colds, but actually it's like cap, elemental resistances, and sort of chaos res. But actually you can like get, if you will get chaos soul cores here, you can get like 50%. And it will be pretty fine. I have 3000 mana, and I invested in this build around 10 or like 13 divines, so it's like not a lot, and I will progress this build. I will make new videos, and now you know everything about my build right now, and I really hope you like it, because this build is crazy, and I really want this video to not be pretty boring. So please don't forget to like, subscribe, guys. I try my best. It was Raychich as always. Don't forget to like and comment, please. I really need your comment, because like I feel lonely without it. And if you want to support me, you can subscribe my Patreon, of course. Thank you so much. It was Raychich with cast on Phrase, cast on Shock, Fireball, Frost Wall, Stormweaver, crit build, and double curse really affect your damage. So good luck, good night, good evening, good morning. Bye.